thought 1, 2, 3. This is the fourth meeting. 1, 2, 3, 4. Who did we skip? Did we skip you? All right. Well, then you're up.
I didn't know that.
Apparently, I didn't.
It's only fair.
Well, William.
Okay, go for it, please.
William did it first.
Yeah, that's right. It's your turn.
You did it. And then you did it. You both.
That was, you're up.
Oh, it's the fifth meeting. Okay.
So Caitlin better show up next time.
Feels like the 50th.
It's the first meeting. What are you talking about? It was the first time ever. Getting ready. Those lights are out. Okay, perfect.
We can turn them on if we're ready.
Yeah. Hey, people look like in the dark. He was probably gonna do it.
Yeah. I'd like to call the February 23rd, 2022 Manlius Town Board meeting to order. And I, just as a reminder, we are doing our meetings hybrid. So in the beginning of our agenda, it has virtual meeting instructions to either join us via Zoom. You can also watch on Facebook and YouTube. And I will ask Councilor Italiano to lead us in the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So at the beginning of our meetings, we do what we call open podium. This is an opportunity for residents to come speak to the board for 3 to 5 minutes about whatever topic they're looking for some ready ears to listen to. We answered some questions in the past, help folks get things done. So first up, we have Ann Smith with the Manlius Senior Center. If you'd like to come to the podium.
My name is Ann Smith. I'm the director of the Manlius Senior Activity Center. I'm here with one of my board members, Rob Richardson. And we are here to request that the Manlius Senior Activity Center be added to the town of Manlius budget for 2023. We have about 400 members that currently come to the senior center, and about 98% of them reside in the town of Manlius, or town of Manlius. And so we have a lot of activities, we have a lot going on. Just really, the seniors in the community love coming, and we have tons of activities and programming, and honestly, I think we have more programming right now than we've ever had. So it's been really great, but we are facing some funding issues, challenges because of COVID, and increasing costs of living or operating costs. So we have some challenges going on that way right now. We're primarily supported by donations and fundraisers, but we haven't been able to have our fundraisers in the last couple of years because of COVID. And so that's why we would really appreciate if you'd consider adding the Manlius Senior Center to the town of Manlius 2023 budget. And we'd be happy to come and talk to you if you have any questions, or my name is on the letter that and my phone number, and also our president of our board of directors, Janae Seifert. Her number's there too. We'd love to talk with you or provide more additional information, anything that would help. And we're always available. So feel free to reach out to us. And thank you for letting me speak today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions or comments?
So Councilor Italiano and I are meeting with the Community Foundation tomorrow to see if we could
find some short-term solutions that would be assisting both the Manlius and the Fayetteville Senior Center who Fayetteville appears to last fall with the same issue.
Fantastic.
And I don't know, this is probably better for a follow-up conversation, but I would love to talk about, to really look at sort of the funding that comes from the village, just to look at the mix and everything and see what we can do that's supportive and sustainable.
Okay, I do have our budget. Would you like a copy of that?
Yes, please.
Yeah, great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And you charge differently for village residents versus town residents, right?
Yes, just because the village residents pay the taxes and we get a small grant from the village
Yeah.
and with the village taxpayers.
And you said 98% are from the town. How many of that 98%, how many of those live in the village? Do you know?
That live in the village now.
Yes.
I don't have that right in front of me, but it was very small.
Yeah. That's what I figured. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have anyone? So if anyone is joining us via Zoom as an attendee, if you could please raise your hand if you'd like to join us for open podium, if you'd like to say something to the board. And then if anyone else is in attendance that would like to participate in open podium, feel free to come on up, tell us your name and address, and let us know what you're here to talk about.
Thank you. My name is Dave Taylor, and I live at 7303 Romero Road in Syracuse. And I'm here to discuss, I guess, the solar panels that are projected for the landfill. I've lived there for 35 years. That landfill was open at the time. And once it was closed, it was deemed that it was never going to be used again, which it's been perfect. Been a secure site, been perfect, working for 35 years. But over those 35 years, this community has allowed residential to be built around that. You've got Erie Village, you've got Meadows, Park Hill, Fremont Hills, all that areas built around that landfill. And I know, reading up on these things, landfills, they're ideal spots for these solar projects. And they're targeted that way. But you have a different situation here with the amount of people that live around that landfill, the amount of people that are affected by that. And where I live, if you're familiar with Bowman Road, you got the landfill, the cemetery. I live at the top of the hill overlooking the cemetery. So my view is from cemetery, landfill, Sweet Road Garage. So I've got good neighbors, you know. We all see this land. We all, you know, it's a prize in our development. And now you're planning on putting something like 12,000 solar panels, 17 acres. And we're supposed to not have this affect us. And, you know, and it says, EPA says that, oh, there's, you know, little visual effect. I'm disagreeing with that for sure. All right, we're looking at 12,000 panels of solar, you know, installed on that landfill. And then, you know, I don't see where that does not affect us, the community we live in, my neighbors and everything else like that. I gotta make sure that everybody understands that. And, you know, these, you may not be familiar with it, that area and everything, but it is quite a view and it's beautiful, all right? The second thought on that is that landfill, solar panels, 12,000 of them, they're like little roofs. So all that water, rainwater coming off of there is gonna be consolidated. It's gonna affect all the wetlands. It's gonna, the velocity of that water going into those wetlands is gonna be increased. All right, there's gonna be erosion problems on that landfill. That once that wetland area is surcharged by that velocity and can't handle that water goes across the street to Burdick and into Erie Village. So I'm not sure residents of Erie Village are aware of what effect that'll have on that too. Because that gets flooded all the time over there. And so a couple thoughts, you know, that I think the board needs to know. And I don't know, is there any comments on what I have to say? I mean, I invite anybody to come to my home, look out, sit on my deck and have a glass of wine and enjoy it. Because it's, you know, something I've enjoyed for 35 years. So
So thank you for that. And I think the view shed, we've definitely heard about before. The planning board has heard about it before, but your water issue, we can raise that question.
That's great. I know you have engineers, and I'm sure they'll look at it pretty well, because it's.
I mean, it's definitely
yeah,
a
plus
wetland.
you got the border also, Erie Canal.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure what that watershed's gonna be and how much water can handle, but I know wetlands handles some of the water all the time, but then when it does fill up, there's a big rain that goes across the street.
Yeah,
A good example, though, is that the town of DeWitt's site is right next to a canal. So there, we have a living sort of laboratory, certainly, to see how those.
And you have, when you look at DeWitt does not border any residential areas. The only time you see that site, the panels, is when you walk the canal or drive Cedar Bay Road. Okay, so that is pretty much isolated area. And
But some would consider it to be a scenic sort of.
it's not a scene. If you walk down that, you know, the foundations of the panels sits in a black tub, concrete. You know?
Well, I will say that there are a number of people who see it as progress, see it as
I love
actively
progress.
taking
I love
a
progress.
stand.
That's not the point. The point is that, you know, you can listen to the 300 letters that you have that are all for it. Granted, come on, I'll bring all 300 people up to my house and say, you know, you don't live here, I do. You know, so I'll put it in your backyard. I think, so it's, you know, I like progress. I'm not against, that's not the point of the solar. There's things that have to be looked at.
Yeah.
And
And I will say,
accommodated.
we had a meeting, you and
We did.
3 other
We
residents in
did.
the neighborhood. We had a very productive meeting. I talked about the next steps and that we're trying to address as much of the view shed issues as we can.
It's a difficult situation.
Yeah.
You know, it is. But like I said, there's a lot of residential in the area. Looking at DeWitt, it's not a pretty site, and that's what I'm gonna be looking at. You know, I'm gonna be looking at structures, superstructures, and the leg is sticking up and panels tilted instead of a grassy hill.
Thank you very much.
Got it, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else for open podium?
My name is Charlie Chapman. I live on 5754 Stony Kill Drive, just below Dave. I'm back up to the cemetery. A few years ago, I put a deck on my back of my house. I had 8 inspectors within a number of days, and yet I haven't seen enough information on this to verify that it's worth doing. First of all, those panels may be bought from Canadian firms, but they're made in China. And what they do with that labor over there and what they do with what's in those panels is not good. There's a lot of chemicals. And I have a degree in environmental science, and I studied a lot of this in my early years. And I could not see where, one, we're gonna see nothing but the back of these panels. There's no coverage for trees. It would take 100 years to get the kind of coverage for trees that you would want. It's right on the road, Bowman Road. The people that walk the canal are gonna be affected by it, I believe. It's gonna bother the people up on the hill, or they're already doing a lawsuit against this program. And I don't think that we should change the law to help put something through that isn't wanted by the people. Our land value, our property value is gonna go down, our taxes will continue to go up, and I don't wanna pay for it. I wanna see something done where it's commercially used, or not commercially used, but used for more recreation or better planning to fill in the gaps. That's all I have to say. Any questions?
Anybody?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay. So we will move on to item number 4, continuation of the public hearing for the zone change for Twin Shore Properties at the North Burdick site. I believe there's a presentation to share. Nope, you guys are all set. So, yes. So is anyone here for that public hearing? Okay, anyone in the Zoom attendance? If you are here for the Twin Shores properties on North Burdick Street zone change public hearing, please raise your hand. Okay, so I have a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Okay, so discussion? Questions for the applicant? Anybody has them?
Letter that they sent in discussing what Councilor Bollinger had requested them to do regarding the floodplain lines and the zoning boundary lines. I would like that to be brought forward and put into the public record and request that he sign the letter since he was out of town when it was sent to us.
You can get a copy of that, so you get signed. And basically, the contents of that letter was responding to Councilor Bollinger, saying that there are, or do you want to, would you like to, present your answer? I can do it for you if you want.
There's, no problem with putting that in the record and signing the letter. It's everything in there is accurate.
Yeah.
Yes. There's nothing else to say.
So I had a question on that, because I didn't understand, like, if you're not gonna develop in the floodplain, then why do you need CA to be in the floodplain?
Well, there's two parts of that. So regardless of what the zone says, like states in the letter, regardless of what the zone is, you can't develop in there. So changing the zone is not going to prevent development there.
But CA is a much more intense use
Doesn't matter.
than RA.
Doesn't matter. The use is irrelevant. It's whether it can be developed in there.
And
Nothing can
it's-
change. Just because you change the zone to something that's more restrictive or not, doesn't prevent you or allow you to build in that floodplain. We
So you
can't-
still have the planning board, the
That's
DEC.
Right.
I mean, it's just like when we were looking.
Regardless of what the zone is.
But speaking the same way, why not change it?
Well, it sounds like it would be a lot, am I correct that it's sort of commercially and from a business perspective,
Sure.
it makes it a smaller piece of land?
Right, which it is. So let's just tell people it is small.
Well, it doesn't, because you can still.
But if our concerns are about the development and the land usage in terms of flooding, why are we worried about the commercial aspect? I can't believe I'm saying these things. But why are we worried about the commercial aspect of it? Why would we want to limit the?
Okay, I will share my thoughts.
Please.
So my belief is that we need to move forward in our philosophy about zoning into a more sustainable approach. And the fact is you can build in a floodplain as long as you do a bunch of stuff. So there's no such thing as you can't build in a floodplain. As long as you replace the water and do the other things, you can. So my concern is I believe that the town needs to have a forward-looking around this water management, that the water is only going to be getting worse in the future, and that we need to start planning ahead with zoning and not looking backward. I mean, the fact that NS was allowed there, and in fact, they put in a proposal for an entire apartment building in the floodplain. So that was only a few years ago. It's not like it's a crazy idea that somebody would try to do that. So I just want to forestall that and say, no, that will always be RA. And that if anything gets built there, it might be a shed or something, like that's all that's ever going to go there.
I feel like this would be making an example though of this particular piece of property and basing so much on floodplain maps that are old. I think the site review process is 10 times more important.
It is not that. That was a very recent floodplain.
That one
2018 maybe, it's very recent.
2018, not the other one.
No, there's water issues there.
2016.
Thank you.
2016, okay. So I guess my point is that I don't think that I don't think this is the progressive policy. I think this is highlighting a piece of property that's very important to flooding. We're very concerned about the neighbors that live next door.
Mhm.
And we just don't want to get into a position where we've
Worse than the conditions.
completely worsened conditions for them. But I again think that it has to be in our code around how we allow site plan review. I don't see how it's. I mean, the floodplain is a floodplain, but that's like the Army Corps of Engineers isn't coming to save us. So we still have to do things on a local level when we build things
Right,
and
and
approve
the
projects.
site plan review is the forum for that.
Yeah, they would be the ones that would hold you accountable for building the floodplain and,
Yeah, and,
You know.
and Sarah, I mean, you know, not to pick on the spot, but originally, right, we talked about the CB, I think it was your suggestion, and one of the ideas, so. You know, look, I don't know, I guess, you know.
If you can't build anything anyway, then what would be wrong with just making it RA? Tell me the reason. What's the
We
reason?
can build something, we're saying though that we're not going to.
But if we don't.
We're not, and the proper form for that is site plan review.
But zoning comes before site plan.
Yeah, and honestly, and I understand that the idea is if you are not the stewards of this property forever, then we
Right.
have to look out for the people's interest too. I get that too.
Which is why through any process, it goes through site
Site
plan
plan
review.
review.
I mean, that's why it's there.
Yeah, I mean.
well, and we know too, it's the, you know, as each piece of this overall site is proposed to the planning board through site plan review, you know, they're gonna be,
Yeah, each section. Yeah.
So I have a question, because we did a zone change on 92, where they wanted R3 and they wanted R3 on the whole parcel. It currently was R3 in the front, RA in the back. The reason why they wanted it was because they could count the whole parcel and like take that square footage to build heavier development, as far as I understand. Is this the same thing? Is this creating more CA so you can build something? I don't know if that's the same.
And
I
then
don't
the
think there's
site-
any allowances in the CA, because the subdivisions would be for residential. So the CA wouldn't allow any allowances, that having more CA would allow for more
Larger,
intense use of the property, other than just the site being bigger. But in this instance, you know, I'm fairly confident that the planning board would really say it's kind of a deal breaker if, you know, you're gonna build in the floodplain. And I think moving forward, having this as a kind of an expectation for folks that are coming to us to say, hey, let's look at the floodplain maps and look at your zoning map and, you know, make sure that this is, you know, working, I think would be a great move. I do agree with Heather a little bit that this is kind of penalizing this applicant for a change in philosophy, you know, 6 weeks into the conversation, if, you know.
But that was our same concern, in fact, at the other parcel with the floodplain. That was the same concern. That's not changing.
Well, we've never made it clear that this is a new philosophy, this is a new requirement, or, you know, I think moving forward, if we want to tell folks, if, you know.
Well, I think this is a particularly vulnerable property. I understand your concern, your constraints, because there's also the sewer easement. So like where you can actually build anything on the CA property is
It's limited
limited
anyway.
and then limited and then limited again.
Yeah.
So it is, I'm sure it's frustrating from the point of view of like, how many restaurants can I put in?
Right, and let's not forget, hang on, you know, the big picture here, we're talking about 160 plus acres, right? 130, that, how many are developable? 40 acres are developable, so we're not trying to build a
I
concrete.
understand. No, I
concrete
like your plan. I
Yeah,
just,
okay.
there's this little piece that I just
Yeah.
want to.
Good.
And what I will say is, I think that the possibility of expanding our tax base, bringing in services that we've heard time and time again from residents they want, I understand the you know, the worry and the concern. I do think this is an opportunity though, where, you know, we can, and maybe this is the precedent, we say moving forward, when we get zone change applications, we expect lines to follow floodplains, and that anything within the floodplain is to remain RA or return to RA, perhaps it's floodplain
In this
maps
case,
change.
it's already not RA. So I don't want to penalize you for that. That's not your fault.
And Sarah, let me say in closing too, I mean, not that this matters, but, you know, my office enjoys a great reputation for following through and doing things that we say we're gonna do. So I certainly will have that letter signed and put into the record. And Mr. Newman and his company, Twin Shores, has a great reputation across the states. We are going to make a development here that you're gonna be proud of, that each board member in the town is gonna be proud of. Thanks.
Thank
Thanks for listening.
Any other discussion,
I
questions?
guess the other question I had too was just on the CA that why does it go so far back to the lake?
I don't know. Let's go with the first one. Let's pull it up.
We have a plan.
Oh, you?
Yeah,
Oh, you're being.
yeah.
It's been a marvel, this sort of.
It didn't work.
I was just wondering why this goes back. With right currently, our end goes like this. Why does it go back?
Well, there's been some talk about the municipal building in here,
Yeah.
and you need parking and stuff, so it's just an arbitrary line. I mean, that basically would set up for the corner and the entrance road coming in.
Or whatever, you know, even if it's not, whatever ends up
Whatever ends up
going in
going
there,
right.
in.
There's enough space for parking and.
Right, for
yeah.
parking.
Which again can be set back from site plan review.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You good with that?
any further discussion?
Do we have the letter available?
I have the letter right here. I can read it.
Well, I'm not going to sign.
Huh?
I'm not available for the sign.
Oh, from the side.
I have a copy of it printed in my office, I can run it. Yeah.
I'll get it. I'll follow up. It's already in the official record, so anytime an applicant sends something
There
to
you
me.
go.
I just got it.
There you go.
There.
Alyssa wants to feel better voting after knowing that it's.
Yeah, now that it's signed, now that it's in the record.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for doing
Thank
that.
So if we move forward, is this conditional on subdivision? Is that what you said?
But the other issue is the current lot lines. The tax map lines don't match
Oh, yeah.
anything.
So we said that last time, that we were gonna say conditions. check.
So this has to go to the planning board. for
Yeah, with the planning board, and
Right.
as that process goes through, it all gets
But
chopped
that
up
doesn't
into.
affect
It doesn't make.
zoning really.
Yeah, yeah, they'll kind of.
But you don't, so here's another philosophy of zoning.
Yeah.
That you shouldn't partially zone, a single
Yeah.
lot should not be partially zoned. So we
I
want,
know that was a call out from the Onondaga.
so we want the zoning, the subdivision to match
Right.
the zoning.
Which, once we're through site plan review and all the different pieces,
So,
it'll be sane.
yeah,
Quite a
so
bunch.
if you want to put that as a contingency, because it would happen anyway, but you could put it in there.
Oh, well,
But we want to see that a particular tax map lot is CA and a different tax map lot.
Yeah,
is
there's
R.
no parcels that have two different types of zoning.
Right.
We're
Yes.
comfortable with that.
And that's not a new philosophy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's kind of standard for zoning. Don't do it.
Yeah.
I think every time we see it, we go, "Well, how did this happen?"
Yeah.
Okay, any further discussion, questions, comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to close the public hearing?
No.
That's happening.
Oh,
So I prepared a resolution with the
Yeah,
local law.
yeah, I'll prepare, the resolution, for local law 2022
Run, this will be our first.
Oh, one, which is a zone change for Twin Shores. Zone one, what did all three of them?
I would just say a motion
So here.
to approve the resolution as presented.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you, Allison. I'd like to make a resolution to present the resolution, or to vote on the resolution as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you.
All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Thank you. Thank you. With the condition that this.
Yeah, with the condition
That the parcel be subdivided pursuant to the zoning map provided to the town.
No, I'm okay.
By the way, I was in New York for the Association of Towns meeting that got canceled.
Oh,
I went anyway for the weekend.
I'm jealous. I was sitting on a Zoom webinar for 8 hours a day.
Yes, that was a joke.
But I'm sure you were sitting there watching all the presentations.
Watching the whole thing.
He's out paying the town ride.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, I'm sure we'll see you again soon.
Sorry, the subdivision.
Yes.
So, next up, I'm gonna present the, what I guess will be local law 2022-2,
Presumably,
presumably.
because if something comes in and beats it, then it becomes.
I really hope there's something else that's coming in that fast. So this is a local law to repeal section 155-27.2 of the town code, regulating the placement of solar voltaic energy systems, and to replace it with a modified local law to regulate the placement of solar photovoltaic energy systems in the town and removing photovoltaic energy systems situated on town property from the site plan and special permit processes. So just as background for this law, we, when a majority of the board changed over, running on sustainable development, supporting renewable energy, we began the process of, finding someone who we could partner with to put solar on the landfill. And we've, that's been through the lease process. And now after we talked about a moratorium that came from it came as a suggestion from the Salt Springs solar installation project. The planning board asked us to consider a moratorium last year. And we did pretty extensive public outreach. We had
Study group.
3 times as many people as we're allowed to have in this building to weigh in on that. And ultimately the moratorium did fail, largely based on some feedback from Joe Luby of the planning board, who said we were ready to go and move forward. And as a result of that process, we started a solar study group that included many members of the planning board, members of the town board, members of the community, and Chris Carrick from the regional planning board, in an effort to, understanding that the moratorium failed, to amend our solar code to be, because I think it had passed previously in 2016, and the goal was to bring it up to best practices. And kind of following guidance and what New York State has made fairly clear in saying that they have deemed that any solar installation going on a landfill less than 25 acres is a type 2 action. So essentially making it a little bit easier, right, to develop solar on landfills. And so we are presenting that revised solar code, or the whole name, for a public hearing, ideally on March 23rd at 6:35 p.m. So that we can talk about this, because throughout the last few years,
Why March 23rd?
There's a
yeah, just to give it more time for people to find out about it and plan to attend or write letters, and just make sure that we have everybody's voice at the table for that one. And I lost my train of thought. So in really kind of the time span, we had 2 elections that the candidates that in last election, candidates running on putting solar on the landfill were elected. Throughout the moratorium process, we heard from many residents. And so we have been considering options that are presented in this law that essentially remove the requirements for site plan, or the planning board's review of site plan and special permit, to basically, for anything that's on municipal property, which as of right now is this building, the garage, and the landfill, still requiring all the site plan, the decommissioning plans, all of that stuff. And essentially, our plan is to have this public hearing, listen to residents' feedback, really get an understanding if this is something that's palatable to all the town residents, and to move forward, hopefully, with getting an installation on the landfill. But also, as I mentioned previously, I had a meeting with 4 of the residents. I don't know in what capacity. They did say that they were representing the neighborhoods of both, I believe, Starview and the Fremont area. And we had a very productive conversation where I made it, kind of explain why the town board is committed to this. It's very much a policy decision. And that, we are hoping to be able to work very closely with these residents to explore kind of every option that we have towards screening and addressing any other concerns. Some issues were brought up at that meeting. It was very productive. We're planning a follow-up meeting. And so this law is presented. It includes a lot of the best practice updates from the previous law, as well as the removing the requirements for projects on municipal property. So we just need to schedule the public hearing. I just wanted to present it.
We'd like to have a couple of discussions on some things that we have changed in here to make sure that they're good to go.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
I didn't know, I have some just like little things to to kind of give an update on what we did change or
Yeah.
add, if we want to do that first.
Yeah, go for it.
And then go
That'd be
into
great.
a discussion. So,
So I'm gonna do this as we, in real time. I've got the law in front of me, so.
so I was just gonna go through just some of the
Incredibly
stuff that we did change.
So she's reviewing.
I'm just reviewing.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So we added 2 definitions. We added a definition for glare and native vegetation. We reordered the law to go from roof mounted, small and medium, medium to large. In medium to large solar energy systems, we added, what I'm gonna call the clause, I don't know what to call it, a line to protect prime farmland and trees over 6 inches in diameter. We added a requirement to plant native vegetation to benefit birds and pollinators. We have added the planning board's process of requiring a building permit issued within 2 years of their special permit or site plan approved by the planning board. Same for building permits. And we added more details to our decommissioning and removal. So that's just some of the
Those are the updates that
updates.
came from the solar study group.
And then so some of the things we wanted to talk about, I think was, okay, we have it in front of us. On page 13. We added number 5, the total surface area of solar collectors combined with all other buildings and structures on the lot shall not exceed 50% of the total parcel area. And I didn't know if we wanted to have a discussion if that,
Yeah, I think some of the discussions we've had, it doesn't really make sense.
maybe that should go like
So page 15.
Page
13.
13, number 5.
Okay, so I'm gonna pull the hard copy because mine shows 12.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
So in my opinion, the
Oh, yeah, so
Surface
we
area.
were okay with removing that.
Yeah, removing
just
that.
removing it.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I mean, I think when you consider what the point of a solar installation is to maximize the amount of space. So I think.
I
striking
did
that is-
check.
So
All the
strike the total surface area of the solar collectors combined with all other buildings and structures of the lot shall not exceed 50% of the total.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we just eliminate number 5.
And that doesn't exist in our current, so we're not
No.
changing
Yeah,
that.
All right, so
so
let me
that's
get rid
just
of
striking
that.
from the proposal.
And I
Wait one
checked-
second, let me get rid of that and then renumber these.
Is it possible for her to speak up? Because
Yep.
I can't hear. I don't mean to be disrespectful. but
No, not at all,
it's
not at all.
So hard to hear, you might feel that I can understand a little.
I will try. And so that's great, because the calculation on that could have been.
Yeah.
Weird. So
So
it's
you
easier.
know, what we can do is somebody can like summarize after you've said
Thank
stuff.
you.
So that
Would you, if you just want to pivot towards the,
Oh, okay.
towards the.
Okay, so that one's that one. Then on page, okay, so this is the tiny thing, but on page, the same page, 13, 4, 11. The one we added about any special permit or site plan approved by the planning board for a solar energy system shall be valid for a period of 24 months before a building permit is issued. I thought that was
That was what?
worded weird. It sounded like you have to wait to get a building permit, but.
Oh, I see. Shall be valid for a period of 24 months before a building permit is
or
issued.
may be valid or
So,
is valid.
I have a different sentence if you want to
Yeah.
change it.
Yeah.
I'm taking my notes. Okay. So it's all special permit or site plan approved by the planning board for a solar energy system shall expire after 24 months if no building permit is issued. Better?
Yeah.
All right, so,
And I can send it to you.
nope, I want to do it right here. All special permit or site plan approved by the planning board for a solar energy system shall be valid for a period of 24 months.
Shall
Shall
expire.
expire after 24 months
Okay.
if no building permit is issued.
Did you guys get that?
Can you hear me better?
Yeah.
All right.
After 24 months. If,
Unless a building permit is issued.
unless, the-
Yeah. please.
So
I think it's
it
just changing the
expires-
order.
it Expires unless, if the building hasn't been, if the building permit hasn't issued. it expires.
But it
Yeah.
Which is
expires.
what, which is our
Which is-
current practice.
Yeah, that's how that happens now.
It just was worded here a little weird. I thought it almost sounded like you had to wait 2 years.
Yeah.
And I didn't want that to happen.
Well, and I think that's important to note is that I think when the planning board has been doing the special permits, they've been giving them I think it was a year at first and then 2 years. So this is just codifying what the planning board has been
Yeah,
doing.
so it'll be better. That'll be more consistent.
okay, I got it.
Okay. And then page 16, we still have the saturation.
Yes.
In the 1
19.
mile, it's 19.
Oh, yeah.
So we still have the saturation in here. I'm good either way if it stays or goes.
I think the ultimate decision was to keep it at that,
Because-
because it gives the planning board the authority
Option.
not to do it. So I think that was the,
We wanted to
The
stick with
reasoning.
1 mile.
yeah.
Because I think, my other question is, we've learned that these kind of have to exist in a area around a substation.
And I think,
That was the
it's from
concern.
neighborhood impact, and the planning board would just assess a mile in some areas is not the same neighborhood at all, and in other areas.
We have a good example of that with the
big one?
CVE
Yeah.
project
Yeah.
In North Eagle Village.
in North Eagle.
Oh, yeah, because those are technically 3.
Those are 3 separate facilities, but they look like one facility.
Yeah.
And they're all within, they're adjacent to each other.
Yeah.
Because there were screens. though.
Right, yeah, because they're screen zone, but ultimately, the decision there was, we would rather have them all together because.
Yeah.
Because you.
So this is basically just
Yeah.
codified,
Yeah,
and
'cause
Yeah,
consider it, but it's not a
So-
hard
It's not
and fast
required.
so
requirement.
we left it in because it's not, if they can
Yeah,
consider
I think
it.
that's good, though.
So is everyone leaving
Okay,
it?
so I'm gonna leave it in.
That should actually probably be number 18, because it goes
Oh,
17,
yeah, it looks like
19.
it's just
Oh, yeah.
misnumbered.
Hey, you're
Good catch.
18. Got it.
And then the only other thing I had was, I know Sarah mentioned changing global warming in all the, where global warming is mentioned, change it to climate change. And then I don't know if you had any additional.
I had some other ones, but I don't know, Wayne, did you have any?
Did you have any comments?
So let
changes?
me do that.
There's 6 of them, I believe.
Do search and
I will.
find them.
Search and replace.
I'd like the record to reflect that I did not try to tell Tim to use search and replace it.
Is that's a big no, no, it's
I
not
mean-
lawyers, yeah.
I mean, I wasn't gonna say.
He has version control of everything. He never lets go of an original thought or past marked down thing of
So
search.
I have. Warming. Should be changed to climate change. 5 replacements, because I already made 1.
So 6 replacements.
There were 6 replacements.
And we'll take another look at that before.
That's what I had to.
Yeah, that's all I had.
Yep, six.
Right. I know Alyssa had some, and
Just an opinion on this, I'm happy to see that this resolution spells out very nicely the philosophy behind why the solar study group worked so hard on this for the past couple of years. And it does accurately reflect the overwhelming opinion of our town and the residents who have spoken out loudly and clearly that this is something we need to do to protect our future for our children, our grandchildren, to be proper stewards of our environment. I recommend everyone take the next month to really dig in and review these changes and come to us with any comments or opinions about this law change, but I think it's a positive move for our constituents. They've told us this is what they want.
Let me say that too. Well, if William's gonna say it. I've been thinking a lot. I don't want people in the town to think that we haven't taken concerns about how these are made or what they'll do with water, that we wouldn't take those things into account. But we have gone through a very long process.
oh, I
where we
think
have
making it clear that there's been a lot of misinformation around
a
solar
lot of
installations.
misinformation. And if there was more,
What we can and cannot be responsible for,
yes,
runoff concerns, there's a lot of stuff that we've, through the moratorium process heard and, gone to the experts on and, and I think moving forward.
yeah, and then let me finish and just say that, thank you, I know, we're
No worries.
excited. And I think that if we didn't have the example of do it next door to see how it's actually functioning, although it's of course a different site, of course there aren't neighbors around. I promise you that I have thought about whether I would want these in my backyard, and I would. I would.
17 acres.
It's not a public hearing.
No, I truly would. And here's one really reason that's compelling. Well, one reason that's really compelling today to me is that, and I'm sorry to bring this up, but we are dependent on fossil fuels still. And it is actually a problem that we're seeing in real time being played out. I still have a gas guzzler and I'm paying what per gallon? And we are going to see higher rates soon for a lot of reasons, geopolitical reasons. I would like for my kid to not be in a situation where I was reliant. So I'm glad, I think this is a mandate in addition to having it locally from our town, which is the most important part. I'm also just excited because I feel like we are part of the solution. I think things will change too. I'm worried about batteries. I'm worried about the stuff where it goes, but a whole industry is being created around this new industry I don't think we're gonna put them up and forget we did it. I think we'll be actively that if, you know, if it comes to pass.
Yeah, I'd like to add to my statement as well that, you know, my consideration of this has been really deep on the friction that it creates. You know, this is something that has created some friction in our town. And, you know, to your point, I'm not really sure I would like 17 acres in my backyard to look at it either. I'm not sure about that. But what I am sure about is that the overwhelming conclusion of the majority of people that spoke to us about this issue is that this is what they want. This is what we want for our town moving forward. And, you know, again, this is something that you know, plagues my mind in all of this decision making, is the friction that creates. So, I mean, it's not on deaf ears. We've been really going through this stuff.
Well, like I said, we've had a meeting already. We're planning on having many more. We're planning on having, you know, exhausting every option we have to make this, because it's not a it happens or it doesn't happen decision. It's a, you know, if we are going to make one decision in one direction as to whether or not it happens, we're still going to be working with the residents the whole way to find every possible solution to mitigate the impact, just like we do with pretty much anything else we do, is we listen to that feedback and we try to mitigate impacts. You know, if you go to any planning board session, they always talk about, you know, it's got to fit the character of the neighborhood. It's got to be screened if it can't fit the character.
Yeah.
And we're going to take that responsibility very seriously to make sure that we're doing everything we can, going through the tree commission, working with the developer, working with anybody who's got trees and wants to see them planted. See if there's any grants for replacing dead ash trees. We're going to do everything we can. And I think a big thing is we're asking for partners in this. We're not asking to, you know, I mean, as much as people want to be involved in the process to make sure we get a good outcome, we're inviting people in. That's why we're scheduling the public hearing a month out, because we want everybody to have time to consider the law, write their letters, and, you know, really let us know how they feel.
And honestly, I appreciate the invitation from Mr. Taylor. I am willing to come and also just be responsible for the fact that, for my opinion, I'd be happy to come and see your, you know, to see your home if anyone's willing to invite us there. I think it's important before.
So, Sarah, Melissa?
So I had a few things that started on page 3. The study group met for 10 months. Yeah, so page 11, where it says number 2. It says small and medium GMS accessory use. Cross up medium because only small are accessory. Once it goes to medium, they're no longer accessory.
Because we talked about that, and I thought, but then it doesn't do the rooftop solar, and we're talking about it.
Because rooftop is item 1, 2 is small and medium.
I thought we talked about, like if a big business wanted to put it on their roof, would they supply? Would that be medium?
Well, wouldn't that be roof mounted?
That's true though, so I don't.
Yeah,
So you're talking about number 2 where it says small and medium GMS
I don't
accessory
believe
use?
medium GMS are accessory use. I think only small are accessory. A medium is now the primary use.
Okay, so I'm gonna take medium out.
So small GMSs,
Yes.
just and medium. Okay.
And then on page 12. So this was the issue about farmland. And the level
4.
of prime farmland that we would have on page 12. So
That's what we're gonna talk about.
So the question here is 50% was too high, I think. So here's the thing, is the recommendation from the farmland people was 10%. I think we increased it to 50%. So if the field is 50% prime soil, we would not permit solar because that should be a farm.
And just to where this came from, this particular language came from the NYSERDA's model.
Okay.
So they have 50%.
They
Yeah.
have
So
50%.
this was for, I have this down as for discussion. So the
Yeah.
percentage amount is,
So we could.
the
change
farmland people wanted, if there was even 10% of prime soils, you couldn't go. NYSERDA said if it was 50% prime soils, you should not permit solar.
So
farms.
if someone had a piece of property with a significant amount of prime farmland,
You don't want it to go. Now, but other people say you're preserving it for 35
You're
years to
and
be a
that's
farm in
what
the
I-
future.
That's what I say. And then two, if my dad is a farmer, if to tell him what he can and cannot do with his.
Because he might need to
Land.
rent that land or else he's going out of business.
It's an alter, it's an
Yeah.
So
alternative.
and it
that's,
might get sold and
Yeah.
become not prime farmland.
so this is the
Yes,
question,
exactly.
So 10% is clearly too small.
right?
Yes. And so-
50% is what NYSERDA is recommending. Where would the board want to be?
So the question is, are
I
you
just-
still preserving farmland?
Well, I think it's interesting because it's not about the farmland itself, it's about how much of it is in the property or is in the parcel. So in my understanding of this, if I owned a parcel that had a significant amount of farmland,
Mhm.
you could subdivide it and,
You could build houses then.
but you could also, you could
But the farmland.
draw a
people wouldn't
very
want you to-
creative line.
Wouldn't want you to do that either. They want you to farm it.
But I'm just saying, like, in my mind, you could gerrymander the parcels to say, oh, well, this one's got 49%, this has got 49%.
I honestly don't think we're in a position to restrict this right now because I don't expect the town to get any bigger size wise. And we have tons of agricultural exemptions, but we don't. But at the same time, I don't see why we're applying this. I think this, if we were Pompey, it might be a different situation. But we don't have giant parcels that we know are prime farmland that are near the source, the proper power source station. It just seems like it's really, again, narrowing for no good reason. I think that if we have our zoning plan that comes out of the comprehensive plan that says here are areas that are desired for agriculture, for preserving for farmland, we can always
Kind
have
of
that.
incentivize
So-
farming it rather than
But so
saying you
I,
can't.
so I am willing, I think that's the actual plan is that one of the potential outcomes of the comprehensive plan is a farmland protection area, which would not be townwide. It'd be particular areas where farming is
And that
prominent.
could
Right, just say
specifically
that
call
those
out.
areas would be protected, but it wouldn't necessarily be anybody with any kind of prime farmland in their land.
Right.
So we could strike number 4
Okay.
for this law and address it in a different way.
Yeah.
with the
Once we have
farmland
the zone.
protection.
Absolutely.
Or area, I guess is the right.
I think you're talking about it maybe being like an overlay district or
Right.
something like
Yeah.
that.
And the same way we want to, like the hobby farming that people do, or this farming on a different scale, or people are ready for their goat. They're really.
We do have, you can farm in ours.
Okay, on page 15,
The honey production.
on page 15, my suggestion is simply to reverse 15 with 14 because we describe the decommissioning after we make rules for it.
Flip it.
Okay, so 15 and 16 reverse,
14.
14 and 15.
So just-
Okay, Sarah.
So define decommissioning and then notice it.
Let me cut this.
And I hope I'm going to help you then. Tell me when you're done with that.
I'm almost done.
Okay.
On page 17 over into 18. I don't believe we need 5 and 6 because there's a public hearing is going to be required anyway. So I don't think we need to go back over why we have to go public hearing.
Page 17.
The bottom is 17 and then
You mentioned your.
Number 5 says,
Five, all things
it describes what the process is for secret rate.
And I don't think we need to rehash that in this law.
It's calling out a need for a public hearing about something that requires.
Well, the only thing that it's good for is that if it's standalone and someone's reading it out of context, they understand the context, but.
Yeah, I
It's not incorrect. I think it's just,
I wouldn't want any of it to
I
come
think
in.
it's like over explaining, which I
Yeah.
think is maybe.
maybe that's Tim's point.
I don't like to over explain, but,
Well, to be fair, 5 does enable the planning board to require the digital elevation model.
yeah.
That's new, that's
And
different.
then-
than yeah.
No, it's already in there.
Oh, it is?
Pretty sure.
Oh, it's in there, but that's something different.
I was thinking like drone, I guess, I'm sorry.
So if you want to keep it, I'm okay.
I'd rather keep it.
Okay, we're going to keep that. And then on page 18 and 19, we revert to GMS instead of SMES.
Okay.
I just wasn't
I just
sure
must have
why we
missed
were
it.
doing that.
No, I just must have missed it.
So in number 1,
Yeah.
it says RMS.
So
number
that's,
2 is
that's, no, RM,
That's correct.
that's roof mount.
Okay, that's
That's
right.
correct.
Oh, GMS is ground mount.
Ground.
So GM,
And then small and medium GMS.
that's,
And
So
large
that
GMS
is,
That's correct.
and then,
it's correct.
all right, so it is, so you're okay with that? It's correct the way it is?
It's okay the way it is.
I think it's a good distinction, because I think what makes it clear is that RMSs are completely separate.
Separate, yeah,
We don't, basically, their
Regulate.
size depends on the roof.
Not anything. Okay.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, I'm cool with that, and Alyssa has some.
Let me know when you're ready.
Okay, shoot.
I feel some new language coming on.
I am gonna be on page 12. So on page 12, wherein it breaks out the following requirements for the town when it's being built on 12 land,
Yes.
on town land, I kind of felt that it just meant that only A, B, C, D, and E are the requirements and nothing else was gonna have to be required of them. So I was thinking maybe we could add under A,
Yep.
we could just add a comma after solar system and say, which will include language related to notice of change of ownership and surety for the decommissioning of the solar photovoltaic systems regardless of ownership.
Which will include language that
Related to notice of change of ownership
of ownership,
and surety
surety.
for the decommissioning
Commission.
of the solar photovoltaic system.
Now everybody knows that I can't type that well. System.
Regardless of ownership, and then add letter F. And say the town
Okay, wait one
board.
second.
Oh, okay. The town board shall consider and evaluate all the criteria set forth in section D or B.
Little B.
Yes.
Yeah.
Below, before finalizing the lease. And that's just gonna include like everything else. basically.
Yeah.
Which includes
Yes.
the stuff that they're looking at. Yeah. Okay,
Is that it?
Yes. Okay, great.
thank you.
Any other amendments, changes, anything like that to the proposed solar law? Any other comments from the board? Okay, so I will entertain a motion to schedule the public hearing.
Well, I'll make a motion to schedule the public hearing March 23rd at 6:35.
Well, second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Fantastic. Thank you everybody for joining us as we just scheduled the public hearing for March 23rd. Please send letters, talk to your neighbors, let them know there's a public hearing going on, and any questions, we're looking for them. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
you.
And you can stay for the rest.
Yeah, if you
want.
Oh, and we will post the.
I'm gonna send this here right now, Allison.
Yeah, so we'll get that updated.
It'll be in the highway commissioners, and I'll add it to the agenda.
Perfect.
And Allison's gonna have to send this to the county.
Yes.
And provide it to
Several municipalities.
several of our
Yeah,
municipalities.
we'll have to notice other municipalities nearby.
Oh, do it, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much, I think pretty much anyone.
Because it's a townwide law.
Hey, next up. Member Kessler.
Making me work.
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything other than what we talked about. We do have to go to executive session to discuss a tax certiorari litigation matter. It should be very quick.
Okay. So, next up, and our town manager, got a couple items here.
Kay's going to
Okay.
introduce the crossing guard.
Hey, speak to the.
Speak to the
Kate, do you mind coming to the podium? Is that okay?
Sure. And just need a motion to appoint Phyllis Martucci as the substitute crossing guard at a rate of $15.40 an hour.
Any questions, comments? Any motions?
I will move that.
I'll second.
All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kate. I thought you were doing all three.
Just that one.
Right?
Got my steps in though.
No.
The next item is a budget transfer from the highway department. This is for the salt storage facility. You need a motion to transfer, and I'll give all this information to Allison too. So it's $123,987 from the HEO 55132-200, which is the salt storage facility capital account, to the corresponding account in the A fund, 5132-200, which is the garage equipment account. So we'll be transferring it out of the capital account to pay for the new.
Yeah, so
So I just want to point out that we saved up for the salt storage shed that we approved last time. This is transferring the money from the savings account that belongs to salt storage shed to pay for the.
That's interesting that we have to move it over to spend.
Yeah.
So we're just moving it to the other account because that's how government funding works. I move it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
The next item, you should all have received the first and second edition of
Yeah.
the encumbrances and budget transfers from the 2021 budget. Any questions on the list? I won't read through the list.
Yeah, mostly just housekeeping, moving things where they need to be due to, budget items that were met last year, moving them over so we can spend that money now.
It raised some questions on just programmatic things that I want to ask about, but I wasn't concerned about the amounts. But yeah.
Like the encumbrances is. The encumbrances is stuff that we already purchased, but we just haven't been billed for, and we're just putting that movie,
There
that
have been
money.
open purchase orders, yes, that haven't been either fulfilled or haven't been invoiced yet. So
Just try as you might, we don't get the invoices by December 31st.
I'll move that.
I'll second.
All in favor? Opposed? Carries. Anything else? Thank you very much. Okay, committee reports, comprehensive planning update.
So we can talk about the boat launch, or the boat idea too.
Sure.
Okay, please, Sarah.
Okay, so we have two upcoming meetings. March 1st is the quarry study group meeting. Yes. And it's going to be at 6:30 on Zoom and rebroadcast. And March 15th is going to be the stormwater study group, and that will be at 6:30 and be on Zoom and be streamed also. So those two are scheduled. The third one is scheduled is March 29th
Okay, I was
Is-
curious.
That's the March 1st one is actually the February study group, and then the March study group is March 29th, and that will be the quarry study group again. And that's the one with the guest scientists.
We'll have some
Right, the
updates.
first one, the one on March 1st is neighbors to quarries, and then March 29th is our experts.
What was the second one?
Stormwater.
Stormwater, what date was that?
The 15th.
15th, okay.
What's the topic for the 15th for stormwater?
The 15th is external experts, so we've got somebody from
Oh,
the
yeah,
state and
and
somebody
hoping.
from FEMA.
Yeah, FEMA.
Right, and that's gonna be recorded. and
That'll be
broadcast.
recorded and broadcast.
I feel like that one will get quite a bit of mileage over the next few years.
So it might be FEMA, it might be DEC, but somebody else.
We've got to get
Alright,
Mayor
Still working on
Worrell.
that side, but it'll be experts, yeah. And then the other thing, we were invited to the Old Erie Canal working group. They have a different name, working group, invited us to, made us aware of funding to build a kayak launch at Poolsburg Park.
Actually, just a boat
Anywhere.
launch. Yeah, just a
But-
boat launch, an easy one. And the thing that would be different about it is that they're searching for places that are inclusive, that make it easier for you to actually.
So it'll be accessible.
Accessible, yeah, you're not.
Yeah,
gonna
'cause
have
some
to
of them
go
are-
downstairs.
So on the canal, it's steep down, it's hard to get in, but at Poolsbrook, there's
You can
a,
go right up.
so,
Oh, nice.
so we would be, we're working, Poolsbrook is actually a state park, so we have to collaborate with the state to get permission. We can't build a park in state land. So we're working on collaboration with the Parks Department to enable us to facilitate this boat launch at Poolsbrook.
And it's such it's such a priority to have projects that are like this, and these are quite interesting sites. There's already been a feasibility study for these boat launches that the working group has done. So it's kind of a low hanging fruit for the town to engage upon, and there might even be enough funding to do two.
Well, also too, it like makes all of the other work that gets done on the canal that much more important because now you can kayak to and from it. So I think that's a great idea.
So, but you're right, we're not gonna limit. You could bring a rowboat if you want.
Yeah.
It's not just kayaks.
Paddleboard, I don't know.
Okay.
All right, so that's all I had. Did you have anything else?
Okay.
We're trying to get our surveys out. We are really excited to have an intern working with us. And we're going to be, who's an urban planning student. And we're going to be pushing out the links to surveys and doing a bit more marketing there. But we're excited that our next in-person larger event will probably be the activity we do around sidewalks. And I've also heard individually, I would say, Councilor Nicholson, for folks who really want to talk about cycling. And so I have someone to hook you up with for conversation.
Excellent. It came up last night in the Village of Manila as well.
Oh, cool.
Good stuff. Okay, so next up, we have a letter of engagement from Cell Coverage Mapping LLC. And basically, do you want to explain?
So this is a statewide project. It's a national company, I think,
Yeah.
which does because everybody's complaining about broadband and this new federal money was going to provide for broadband. It's unclear how much of Manlius actually doesn't have access currently. And this is a voluntary study so that people will be asked, so they will reach out to people, this company. They will voluntarily provide, yes, I have cell service. I have cell service from company X, Y, or Z. No, I don't have cell service. I can't get it, or I can't afford it, whatever. They answer the questions. Then
There's some stuff about like drop calls and difficult.
and so then the
The
company,
quality of connection, yeah.
so then the company will provide us with a summary of the data, including geographic locations within the town that seem to be a problem. So that if we want to apply for a grant to bring fiber to that area, we'd be bringing it to an area that actually needs help. So that was the idea about it.
Well, and just to be clear too, this organization will then, they're gonna give us that data for ourselves, but then also I believe they provide it to, national carriers
Right, yeah.
so that they, so that we can advocate, but at the same time, national cover, carriers can say, oh, we've got a spot here that's not covered. Let's look to increase coverage.
Yeah.
And basically to make it easier for them to perhaps access some of this federal money, to say, yes,
There's a need, yeah.
There's a need.
And
So
then they're gonna include something
they're gonna
about,
include some wording for us about our comprehensive plan.
so it's even furthering our efforts.
Yeah, it gets the word out because they can afford to get out a few thousand pieces to folks, which is great.
So this is about cell coverage
And not broadband?
and not, yeah, that's what I was getting,
Yeah.
so there was different
Well,
terms in there.
My understanding was it was cell and broadband coverage.
Oh,
It is.
Coverage mapping.
Cell coverage.
The thing only mentioned
Line
one.
survey was
Right,
solicited
so
feedback.
it's like broadband, and that's what.
Well, it's kind of, it's,
Broadband.
this is, as all this broadband stuff is going on, there, I don't know if
Actually,
anyone's noticed.
I'm pretty sure it was both.
It's both,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty
But
sure.
also
But
too,
it
it's
doesn't
the
say
idea
so.
that a lot of the cell phone carriers are offering internet service through like a 5G
Mhm.
Yep.
device. So I think the attempt here
They're
is to,
overlapping.
yeah, exactly.
So
So
then
if
my-
you can't get
We
broadband.
did talk to the guy, and it seemed like it was more broad.
My other question is, because the county, the CNY Regional Planning Board also did a study,
Mhm.
but that was just for internet.
For internet, yeah.
So this
This is
potentially
cell
would give
coverage.
us some different data.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be good because
And
we
it's
do,
free.
yeah, and we do have a couple spots in the town that, I mean, I know with my carrier,
Oh, yeah, when you're driving, you just lose a call.
yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
the number one spot is right by, on your way between DeWitt and Syracuse. Is it Holy Cross School that's right there? Anyway, right by the Jewish home.
And,
Yeah.
and I will say too, we did look, the provider of this survey does allow people to give them more personal information, but it is not required as part of it. And there's a clear opt-out status, but generally speaking, if you're worried about your private data being monetized, you simply just don't put it in. It's not a requirement to fill out the survey.
Thank you for saying that. We checked on that because,
That was my major concern.
Yeah.
It's just, I didn't want a private company getting people's personal information and then selling it without permission.
I think it says in there that the foil aspect of it is given to us after the survey's done.
Yeah,
Have
we'll
to
get
determine.
all the relevant data, which would be great too, because then we can reach out to carriers as well and say, hey, we've got some issues. Are you interested in increasing your coverage?
Okay, so it's action, we authorize the supervisor to sign it. I will make a motion to authorize the
And
supervisor.
Tim has reviewed it.
Would you like?
Just wanted to check.
I'm reading it, I've read it, it doesn't cost us anything. The only issue I have, the only question I have is, are we endorsing? We will get something in return for what we're doing. Essentially, we're endorsing them to go out and get this survey, right? The company that's doing it.
But we're
We're
not,
not-
it's not a specific carrier though.
No, it's a mapping company. But,
like, are we getting value basically?
well, it's not even a matter of, I don't care about any, what I care about is using the town of Manlius' name.
We can have language saying that they
You can put a
will,
disclaimer in the
Yeah,
That we're not endorsing.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like
they're open
that.
to having whatever go with it, yeah.
because they're letting us put a couple sentences in, so.
Okay, so yeah,
So we can have
I would prefer to put a language in there that says this is not endorsed by the town of Manlius. The information that we will be receiving is going to be for our use, in our use only, and we can use it however we want to.
Yeah.
But we'll work on that language.
Okay,
So can we,
Yeah, we can make a motion to authorize supervisor to do it, to sign the agreement with the changes we just discussed.
so amended my motion to that.
And they don't even need data from us for mailing, they already have, who they're sending to, so we're not releasing any.
I just
data.
don't want the people in the town of Manlius thinking we're endorsing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine, thank you. The second.
All right, I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
So the next one is me. So, this is where drainage and stormwater gets really exciting. So if you guys probably know where Enders Road School is. So big hill, Maillard's Landing, all those houses, water comes down, crosses Enders Road, goes underneath the school parking lot, goes in between the fields, goes to Burbank. the underneath the road and underneath the parking lot needs to be slip lined. Those pipes are old now. So this is a multi-phase proposal. Okay, I learned at AOT just the other day. If a project like this is under $35,000, it goes to a, you ask for 3 people to bid on it. If it goes more than that, then it has to go to this whole bigger fancy thing. So this is the under $35,000 version of a bid document. That would be for people to tell us how much they cost per section. So if they can only do Unders Enders Road, then that's all we do this year. If they can do Unders Road and part of the parking lot, that's how much we'll do. So they're going to tell us how much it will cost to do each section. And then we'll only do the part that we can afford to do for this year.
Should we tell them how much we can afford? I'm sorry, Melissa.
So we can only afford to do under $35,000?
Well, we've got other big plans for big money. So anyway.
But is it going to defeat the purpose? Like it's only doing one part of
Oh,
it?
no, we're doing the whole town in slip line. Like this is the long road.
Oh, so that's what this, that's what
We're-
called slip line is, just
We're
doing
doing
one part at a
We're
time.
doing, yeah.
And we're doing it piece by piece.
Okay.
Sarah, what is
Ideally-
it, and Rob should be here too, or is a slip line, is it just like that thing you stick in and you?
No,
get
no,
out of the
this
truck?
is, this is a fiberglass inner pipe that makes it so as if you put it in a new pipe.
Got it.
So basically you take a metal pipe and you put a fiberglass pipe inside it. It's liquid when it goes in and hard when it's done.
Oh, fascinating.
Okay.
And that's my scientific.
No, good job.
description.
Thank you.
Fantastic. This is all budgeted for
Yes, all budgeted
This
for
is-
and planned.
from the Drainage District 3.
Yeah.
So anybody in that drainage district pays a fee, and that we are using that money to improve the drainage infrastructure there to, help them.
So the money's already,
It's already,
Okay,
it's
but
already
from
saved.
this drainage
It's already-
district,
They've
it's
already
not-
saved it up, yeah.
it's not an extra fee that's going to be tacked on
No.
to the drainage district.
They've been paying into it for years and they have it hard. Now I can't get back to it, but I think I did. So we need a motion to approve the.
To issue the bid.
To issue the bid. And then when we get the bids back, we'll decide whether we do it or not. But this is just to issue the bid.
With the intent, with the hopes that it's only going to be $35,000 or less.
Yeah, correct. Okay. Do you want to make that?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Melissa, thank you.
I'll second that. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
And then this second one is for Verbeck Drive, and this is even simpler. So you probably know this, but if you go up Verbeck behind the school, behind all the garages, there's like a dead end there. That's basically a retention basin. So it looks like a dip when it's grassy. It just looks like a dip in the grass. When it's raining, it looks like a pond. And when it's flooding, it looks like flood. And that we're going to have landscaper digger type people come and just dig it out, the silt, and make it a little bit deeper and a little bit hold more water so that less water pours down to Route 92. So that
Oh, good.
it's really just, that's even less money. And it's basically just somebody's digging up dirt and taking it away. So I would like a motion to approve putting that up.
Put the spit out for the perfect. Complete out.
I'll second that.
I think.
All in favor?
Can I just, in between these,
Opposed? Carries.
in between all of this, I'd say one of the things we've been learning is that the old ways of structuring these without thinking about rain gardens and certain kinds of plantings that suck up even more. This is the same thing we've done here multiple times. So I'm sure does MJ Engineering give us sort of next level considerations for these things without us asking, or no? Like this drainage district, looking at the project.
Looking at the drainage district altogether, yes, I think, but that's, I would say that that's more what the recommendations of the stormwater study group are gonna be.
Yes.
And then MJ would take it from
Got
there.
it, yeah. Thank you, that makes sense.
So William, you wanna do the two?
Sure.
A man of teal.
Yeah. Sure, so we have a motion before us to approve an agreement regarding the Hope for Heather Teal Ribbon Run through the Village of Manoa, New York. With this to authorize use of town resources for the 14th annual Teal Ribbon 5K Run and PK Family Fun Walk. Our date is May 14th, 2022, between 8:30 a.m. and 12. And it is a fantastic event for a very good cause.
And I think it's the same agreement we've signed a few times.
Same
Yeah.
agreement,
Yep.
and the for-profit organization will reimburse the town for whatever police services are provided.
Oh, fantastic. That's great.
I'll second that then.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carries. Okay, next up, court security personnel.
Yes. As you know, I've been working with the judges and the police chief to try to come up with a solution to provide court security. The unified court system officers did provide it previously, that was pre-COVID. They have since stopped doing that as a secondary employment. So we've struggled to find the right combination of services for the court to reopen. We've been backfilling with a ton of Manlius police officers, but we just don't have the staffing to man that every court session. So originally we were looking at switching with an independent contractor, but we were contacted by a former town of Manlius sergeant who has come up with a team of 4 individuals that are willing to provide court security as employees of the town of Manlius. They would be part-time. I laid all that out. I can email to you. Part-time employees, no benefits, a rate of $40 an hour.
And I think across all 4 employees, it's like 24 hours a month, give or take.
Yes.
Yeah. So as far as like overhead, it's a pretty low impact.
One of the critical issues is that the judges have postponed some jury trials and some other hearings. We don't have the security. They've also not been able to hold any daytime court sessions because they've not been able to provide security. So this is the best option. Both Judge Rothschild and Judge Pavone are really happy with the solution that we are now putting forth to the board, and they're hopeful that we will accept this.
Well, and so I think it's important to note that this does, the court in their budget has a line item for security, so this is budgeted for. This is just a solution to the problem that, basically post-COVID, the old solution isn't there anymore. It's not even an option.
Well, and I understand the larger issue that because centralized arraignment is happening, it sort of sucked up all of the folks who were doing this in the municipalities, and other municipalities are doing like having the sheriffs come, and that's at least $50 an hour, and probably doesn't make the union real thrilled. So I think that this is really a good solution. I also read that these folks would be wearing polos. So they are like bailiffs, right? They really are. Yeah, I think it's a good solution. We really appreciate all the help to get it coordinated.
From the court standpoint also, the judges do always have a concern about using law enforcement outside of the court officers. These would be objective or objective type of.
This is, I think, better for everybody, and it will, but they will still be armed, and so if there is a disruptive individual, they will be able to manage.
I think we said it was what, they'll have a pistol and handcuffs.
Yes, that would be it. And then an emergency.
That's usually enough.
Oh, I'm sorry, Anne, what were you just saying?
No, I was saying in an emergency, they would call 911. They have no arrest authority.
Yeah.
So it's outside their jurisdiction.
Thank you.
So,
I do have the names of the 4 individuals.
so we're gonna authorize each of those.
Yep, they will be court attendants, $40 an hour, and I will give you each of those names so you can.
So they would be employees of the town, part-time. So there's no contracts.
So do you want to give us a name? Sure. Joe Peters, George Millett, Leo Capria the 5th, and Keely Wilcox.
No, we could do a motion to hire all of them as court attendants.
What about the sergeant? Do we need to do that him too?
He was,
He's
one
a
of them.
retired.
I thought
Yeah, he's
it was-
retired. Yeah, he's retired.
I thought it was a sergeant and then the other one as well, so I thought it was 5.
Okay, so I will make a motion to approve an agreement to
The hire.
to hire, well, to create a position of court attendant and to hire these 4 individuals named by Ann Oud to fill those positions preliminarily, and then in future, HR will be able to just hire and place them
At a rate of $40.
at a rate of $40.
Isn't court attendant already on the civil service list
It is.
for us? So are we really creating the position?
We're implementing a position. It was not a position we had before.
Okay.
We do actually have the positions on the roster, we're just filling.
But that's not who the previous people were.
We'll clean the motion up.
It's my job.
Yeah, that's his job.
I second.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carries.
It's awesome to have someone who actually understands the civil service list and the different job categories on the town board too, or is more familiar with them. It's inspiring.
Okay, so next up is approval of the minutes for January 26th, 2021.
I'll make a motion.
To-
The minutes of January 26, 2022 meeting.
That was the January 26th, 2021.
Oh, 20. Wait,
No.
no, it's 22, it's a typo up there.
Oh, yeah.
So January 2021, that's,
Yeah.
I can't do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Right there for that one.
It's fine. I can handle it.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of February 9th, 2022. I did make some technical amendments to that.
A second.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Okay, Mr. Supervisor, under all these papers, you got some numbers for us. Okay. I would like to make a motion to authorize the payment of abstract number 4 in the amount of $389,149.11. And to point out that the unusual expense in the buildings line is a new phone system for this building. And it's a resilient phone system, meaning that should we have a return to work from home, people can take their phone extension with them.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice, and it was budgeted, it was in the plan and everything like that.
For our car, we use it
Yeah.
for our car.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Entertain the motion to
So
adjourn.
we need to go into
Executive session.
Yes, we need to go into executive session to discuss a litigation matter related to that issue.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. I want to thank everybody for attending. We are going into executive session, which will require you to leave the room. We will reconvene after the fact. If you'd like to
It'll be
join
a
us,
short executive session.
if you'd like to join us for the adjournment. Well, I have resolution and the.
I like that.
Okay, please rejoin us.
So here. Okay, it's always the ghosts. So I would like to make a motion, please, to allow Harris Beach to comply with the consent order.
To sign the consent.
To sign the consent order in the matter of Brookdale Senior Living Solutions, JER and HB Senior Living LLC and Marywood Fayetteville LLC versus the Town of Manlius Board of Assessment Review, the assessor of the Town of Manlius and the Town of Manlius.
And
For tax years,
for tax years 2000, yeah,
for tax years 2015 through 2021.
and the index numbers will give to you that. so.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would entertain a
I'm
motion.
sorry.
Adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Um,
Opposed? Carries. Good night.
Yes, I'm Kevin.
So this, yeah, this is